안녕하세요. 비트 POV입니다. 오늘은 마크유스코의 2025년 하반기 비트코인 전망에 대한 인터뷰 영상을 가져왔습니다.
I could be wrong, but my guess is we'll get through this. The trade war won't happen. Trump will back down, and we'll get a slow and steady resumption of the trend through summer and into fall. We'll get that last speculative blow off, but then crypto winter will be back. And how bad crypto winter gets, I don't really know, but it, given history, if we go up less, we probably go down less. So we went, down 84, down 73. So probably less. If we got to 150, would we fall to 75? That seems more. Now, if we don't get back, like if 107 was the peak, then I think this downdraft won't be as big, right? Maybe it'll only be a 30% drawdown. You need to be above fair value in order to have a really deep correction. But what I think is interesting is every one of these cycles, it's not like on a roller coaster, right? You end up at the same place. You got the highs and the lows, but you end up at exactly the same place at the end of the trip. That's not how Bitcoin works. That's not how networks work. Yes, you have this up and down, but it's a series of higher highs and higher lows. Went from nothing to $10 to $100 to $1,000 to $5,000 to $20,000 to $100,000, eventually to $1 million. But there's a volatility, and the media will say, "Oh, it's crashing." There was a story when it crashed from $10 to $2. Then there was a story when it crashed from $100 to $30. There's always gonna be a story. I mean, there was a story last week that it crashed from 107 to 79. I'm like, you realize you're talking about a negative of something that started as zero 16 years ago and now $79,000 per coin.
여기서 잠깐 구독자분들을 위해 비트 POV 베테랑 트레이더와 프로그램 개발자가 힘을 합쳐 보조 지표를 개발하였습니다. 초보자부터 경력자까지 큰 도움을 받을 수 있는 지표라고 자부합니다. 보조 지표 이름은 알파빗으로서 자동으로 구동되며 유료로 출시될 예정입니다만 구독자분들께 보답으로 선착순 10명만 무료로 배포해드릴 예정입니다. 또한 성의 있는 사용 후기까지 적어주시는 5분께 알파빗 지표 평생 이용권을 드리려고 합니다. 신청 방법은 하단 더보기란에 나와 있으니 많은 참여 부탁드립니다.
Get all bent out of shape about the daily price. And it's not just Bitcoin, it's the daily price of anything. It's NVIDIA stock or IBM stock or this bond or this currency. The reality is price of anything, right, is the amount that two people agree to exchange a small amount. Let's take Microsoft stock, right? If you or I wanted to exchange 100 shares of Microsoft stock, we could go to the NASDAQ listing and whatever the price is there. But if I had 1 million shares of Microsoft stock, I could never get that price. If I were like Bill Gates and I had tens of millions of shares, no way. You couldn't sell it all at once without collapsing the price. And so markets are made by people exchanging a small amount of goods or services. But then you have another problem is that, people will disagree on the future of some. People look at the price of Bitcoin but every day between then and now, the price has been volatile. And yet I don't think about the price at all, this is the long-winded way of saying the reason price doesn't matter. What matters is owning a piece of the most valuable computing network the world has ever seen. Fair value of Bitcoin today of somewhere around $95,000 per Bitcoin. Now, if the price is 83, again, people disagree about value. And in the last couple weeks, we went from, above fair value at 103 down to 83. Well, why? Well, a couple things happened. One, there was a big unwind of a arbitrage that's been going on since the advent of Bitcoin futures. Everyone was cheering really loudly when Bitcoin was deemed not a security, right? It was made a commodity. Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, be careful what you ask for. You might get it. It was classified a commodity because when you have a commodity, you can issue futures against that commodity, which allows very large, powerful institutions to basically control the price. Let's talk about gold, right? Gold prices, if you look at money supply relative to what gold should be, there are people like Chris Wood and others who say it should be $5,000, $6,000. Well, why is it only $3,000? Well, in the old days, let's say I had, a ton of gold that I wanted to sell to you. I actually had to have the gold so I could deliver it to you when you exchange. Well, in a futures world, you and I can write a contract saying, I'm going to sell you paper gold. And as long as we settle the contract before I have to go get the actual gold to deliver, it's all good. So what happens in the commodities world is people can short paper commodities against a physical commodity, and the futures price is always modestly higher than the spot price, right? Because it's the future price, and that is, we're optimists, so we're always thinking it's going to go up. So now it's more about traditional supply and demand dynamics, and my guess is we'll resume the uptrend after we get through this trade war nonsense that we're going through. So here's the thing: the 4-year cycle is real. What's the 4-year cycle? So when he coded the original source code, he put in a mechanism that every 4 years, the block rewards, which means, well, why does that matter? Well, think about it. Let's say there are 10,000 miners out there, and they're all mining diligently, but our costs, your costs and my costs, are fixed. So if they cut the rewards in half, one of us has to go out of business, unless the price rises. So we both hold on to our Bitcoin longer, and we require that someone bid a higher price in order for us to sell. So there's a natural increase in the price every 4 years. The fair value basically goes up. Well, why does that matter? So because of this 4-year cycle, we get the price move in a wave above and below fair value. So the halving tends to occur after a period of crypto winter, right? Crypto spring, crypto winter, markets are falling. Crypto spring, they're kind of settling. Then crypto fall, the halving occurs and the price starts to move back towards fair value. The block rewards go down, the price has to start go up. So now fair value jumps to 95, the price starts to approach 95. Now, I will argue that we were at fair value, got a little bit above fair value, and we were on our way to maybe 1.5, 1.6 times fair value, because there's not as much leverage because FTX went away and a couple of the other exchanges were lowered the amount of leverage you could get. So we're starting that parabolic move toward 150, 160. Well, then this crazy thing happens with tariffs and all this stuff, and people are panicking. Well, what happens? The stock market was super overvalued coming into this year, globally, particularly in the US. People were levered up. We had the highest margin debt in history. So then NVIDIA happens, DeepSeek, and things and the Mag 7 start to sell off. People are getting margin calls. When you get a margin call and you're invested in stocks and your stocks went from here to here, you don't sell the stocks. You sell the stuff that hasn't moved. So you sell bonds or gold or Bitcoin to pay off your margin call. So that starts an unwinding of leverage. So what I think happened here was a premature unwinding of the Bitcoin trade.